Hi guys and welcome back to the channel. Today I've got the tank review for the brand new Eastern Alliance Era 3 tank destroyer, the OBJ 477A, the Molot, or the Molot, or however you say that. Now this is a tank destroyer that you can get for about 15,000 gold. It's a lot of money. It hurts my bank account a lot. It's expensive. It's very, very expensive. It makes a lot of credits though. It does make a hell of a lot of silver. And it's also, and I don't like calling tanks on the first review and the first day of playing overpowered, but I feel like this tank is leading onto the overpowered side. And that is because the armour on this tank is pretty nutty. So this frontally, if it stays looking at you like this, is near enough impenetrable, because you cannot pen the turret. The turret is like, I think they said in one of the streams, I think one of the Friday streams, that basically this turret is a module. So it just doesn't get penned. And even if you shoot it in the side of the turret, like this, you still can't pen it. Which is bad, honestly. But the armour on the front is just gnarly. Like, this lower plate is basically impenetrable, the upper plate is basically impenetrable. You might get the odd RNG shot that goes in, but firing at these things with this tank, which has 900 pen, which is one of the highest in the era, non-ATGM exclusive, and you just basically can't paint yourself frontally. So if you're in this tank, keep your armour to the front exactly like this, and you will bounce so much, like so much. You will bounce a lot of damage. If they turn, probably like this, you can pen and track them a lot, and you can probably damage its Amarak a lot of the time as well, because the Amarak is actually like here. So yeah, if it starts to turn its armour, that's when you want to try and shoot the side. Still don't go for the front ever. Just try and get this drive wheel, or try and get this side pen, because that's where you will pen it and do damage. But if it does its job properly, and if you're playing this tank properly, you just sit there frontally on and go, try it, bruv. Just try it. And it doesn't go very well for you, generally. And like I say, I've been firing at this thing with this 900 pen gun, and it just sits there and goes, no, mate. That's just not happening. So yeah, the armour is absolutely ridiculous, and obviously having 900 pen on the gun, you have no problem penning everyone else. And you have a 30mm autocannon, which is memes. And as you know me, I love memes. And this thing shreds people's back ends quite easily as well. So without further ado, by the way, this is the skin you can get with the tank for 3,000 gold. I feel like if you buy this tank, you should get this skin thrown in, because otherwise that makes it a ridiculous amount of money. But hey ho. So yeah, let's get into the stats of the Molot. Well, so the 477A Molot has 1,200 horsepower with a 75km/h top speed and 24km/h reverse speed with a 24.56 horsepower per ton. Now this sounds great, but I found that it's a little bit sluggish to get up to that 75km/h top speed, so which is why I've been running the powertrain to make the engine power that little bit better, because I think you get it up to 1260 horsepower or 1270, something like that, which buffs this up by a whole 1 horsepower per ton. It does make a little bit of a difference, but yeah, debatable whether you need it or not. But it does feel a little bit sluggish off the mark. You've got 3,750 hit points, which is a good slab of hit points to use to trade and smash, and for the most part you won't be trading because you won't be getting penned if you're using your armour right. You've got 30 degrees a second hull rotation speed with 2.2 soft terrain, 1.2 medium and 1.1 on firm. This soft terrain resistance is probably what holds you back a little bit to get into your top speed. You might want to help that out, it's up to you. You've got 452 meters of still concealment. It's a little bit higher than that, but that's because I've got the skin on. You've got 505 meters of view range, which is good enough to spot most things in Cold War. And at the end of the day, if you can't spot it with your view range in Cold War, you can just physically see it. You've got 34 degrees of turret traverse, which means it goes faster than the hull, which is good because that means you can turn the turret while turning the tracks, and you'll keep the gun on target a little bit. It has 1.43 accuracy during rotation, which is not the best in this era, actually, but And that's one thing I'll say, this gun does feel a little bit derpy at times for an Era 3 tank, but it really should be, because everything else is ridiculous. But yeah, 1.43 isn't the best. You might want to run something like Snapshot to try and make that better, and because it is a TD, it can't run vertical stabilizers, so it can't make that an accuracy during movement better with that. So yeah, you probably want to run Snapshot just to make sure that this gun is getting aimed in quicker. You've got 6 degrees of gun depression, 14 degrees of elevation. Yeah, 6 degrees of gun depression is a little sad, especially when you're on ridge lines. But to be honest, because the frontal armour is so good, you can just over-peak so easily and just slap people through their upper plates, or through the turret fronts really easily as well with 900 pen. So the 6 degrees doesn't actually ever feel that bad. One of the downsides is the 70 degrees each way on the yaw limit, so the turret traverse only goes nearly halfway round on each side of the chassis, so you don't have a fully traversable turret. It doesn't go all the way to the back end, which is one of the balancing factors of the tank, so if you face one of these things, you're best to try and get round it. But the thing is, it does traverse pretty decently, and obviously you can make it even better on the turret, on the track traverse and stuff like that, so it doesn't really struggle as much to keep up with keeping you in front of its gun. But yeah, if you face one of these things, your best thing is just to run round it and try and start slapping it in the side and the rear, and that is how you're going to take this thing out. If you stay to its front, it's not going to end well very, very much for you. Unless you're in another Molot, in which you just wait for the enemy tank to make a mistake and turn its side a little bit, and then you can pen and track it. You've got 12.6 second reload, which is a little bit slow, but you do have 760 alpha, which is really quite nice. The 0.35 accuracy at 100 meters, like I say, it does feel a little bit derpy at times with the accuracy on this gun, especially with 3.94 meters during movement, but you can negate all this by, making stuff better with the crew. You get 2.7 aim time as well. 2.7 is a little bit to aim up in this era, and you want to knock this down as much as humanly possible so that your gun can get aimed in as much as you can, and you can absolutely slap. Obviously, the thing is with this is the fact that the frontal armour is so good on this tank that, again, you're not taking hits while waiting for this gun to make sure you're aimed in to smash. You're just like, oh, I can just wait. Oh, there we go, I'm aimed, bang. And they bounce like 2 or 3 shots off of you. I'm not kidding when I say the armour on this tank is nutty. You've got APFS DS on the standard shell and a HE round on the other standard shell, because you don't have a premium round. And the HE is actually pretty decent on this 152mm gun, because it is a 152mm gun, because if you're facing another Molot, you can hit it for about 300 when you can't pen it and stuff like that. And other tanks you're doing a decent amount of damage to as well with it. But the amount of rounds that you do end up firing, you don't want to take too many of those in case you are starting to run out of your standard AP round. As you can see, you got 3.6k DPM, which is pretty damn good. It's not as good as a lot of the other tanks in the era, but it's still pretty damn fantastic, realistically. I mean, if this has got 3.6k DPM, what's the Thumper got with its stuff on it? 4.6. So this with vents. Okay, let's, for sake of it, take off the vents and take off the rammer, take off food. So what is the Thumper's base DPM? Because this is a gun that's fairly similar. Naturally, it's one of the other TDs in the era. It has 850 pen with 700 alpha, and in terms of the hit points, it's exactly the same. So it's realistically the tank that is fairly similar to it, and this has 3.9k DPM. So yeah, it's only 300 off the Thumper, but you have so much better everything than the Thumper. The only thing you lack, really, over the Thumper is the fully traversable turret. Other than that, like, your armour makes up for so much of the other stuff that's worse than the Thumper, right? So, yeah, you get 900 pen, which is absolutely filthy. You just make mincemeat of absolutely everything you face, except for yourself. The Molot is actually the only real thing that you struggle to pen. It's just nuts. And you get 760 alpha or 980 on the HE with 180 pen. So if you were to decide to run the ammo swapper instead of a powertrain, you could be slapping people in the ass with the HE and laughing to the bank with 180 pen, because you'll pen a lot of them in the ass with that and slapping them for nearly 1,000. It's down to you whether you do that or not. I don't carry enough rounds to merit running an ammo swapper, but yeah, it's down to you. You got a bit of blast radius as well, which helps with the splash damage, and the ammo speed is nearly 2,000 meters a second, which is, again, pretty damn crazy, and means that you don't really have to lead all that much, and at distance this thing just slaps them. You just have to be aware that the gun is a little bit derpy at times, and it can just hit the dirt and decide, no, I'm not hitting that shot, because, yeah, screw you, basically, is what the tank does. But, yeah, pretty damn good shell velocity too. As you can see, you got 165% silver bonus, which again nets you so many credits. You get like 300-400k a game quite easily. And if you don't fire full premium out of this machine gun, which is what I do because of the extra pen it gets, you're making even more. I mean, realistically, you don't have to fire the full premium. I just like having that 170 pen. As you can see, the base reload for this machine 30mm autocannon is 23.5. Its rate of fire is absolutely rapid. If you're getting people's asses, yeah, 4k DPM nearly. The accuracy at range is awful, though. These are the stats. As you can see, 1.9 aim time, whatever. But with an autocannon, this sort of thing is just like, just pull the trigger and just watch it rain down the fire upon them. And it's kind of like the Bradley in a way, where it's when you're at distance, it's all over the shop. But when you're close up, it starts to shred enemy rears and sides, which is why I like the 170 pen, because 100 pen is just like the MX40 20mm autocannon, right, where even against all the rears you're going to have a good time with that 100mm of pen, but against the sides of things with 170, even the back end of the sides and stuff like that, you start to realise you can pen a lot more tanks with this autocannon when you get round them with 170 pen, which is really, really good asset for the tank. And it also helps you to go through some of the Macavers in the rear and stuff like that, which you can't do with the other autocannons. You can't really do with 100 pen either. So yeah, this is also a really big asset for the tank. I load full gold. You don't have to, but I do it just because of the ability to damage far more tanks with it and use it in between my reloads, because obviously the reload on the gun is a little bit slow, so you can supplement it with this 30mm autocannon. Yeah, this tank is just crazy. Like, look at the armor. Like, there's 640 in of itself just behind. That is where the first bit of armor actually starts. All the rest of it is spaced armor. So that is the actual tank where you would be shooting through and damaging the tank. All of the rest in front of it is spaced armor, and that's the turret ring. That's where I had someone penning me through the front when they were hugging me on the face hugging me in another Molot. It's 600mm thick, so if you're face hugging this, you can try and pen that ring on the turret ring, and it might go in, but it's very, very RNG based whether that goes in. So that's just something to bear in mind if you face hug it or if it's face hugging you. Don't panic, try and pen the turret ring. It won't always work, but you can try, and there's a lot of tanks that won't have the pen to go through it either, so that's something also to bear in mind. But as you can see, there's so much armor in this upper plate. Like, it just will bounce so much stuff. Like, it's all spaced armor. Like, that is a big... That's the 30mm block of spaced armor. That's a 40mm block of spaced armor. 50mm, 60, you know, like... And that's not even the front where you're going to be damaging. 90mm of spaced armor, really, and it's really well sloped. The armor on this frontally is absolutely fantastic. It's unreal, if I'm honest. And yes, it makes this tank pretty crazy. And as you can see, you got 40mm of side armor, which is, again, as you can see, the gap here is spaced. So that's two plates of 40mm of spaced armor on the side, with like more, like another 25mm plate. If we could have effective values in this armor viewer, that would be wonderful, because you'd be able to see just how much and how thick this armor is. And from playing experience, it's a pretty thick boy. But it's like I say, if this tank starts to turn like this, and you're in another tank that has about 600 to 700, well, probably about 700 pen, if we're all honest, you can track and pen it there. And a lot of the time, like I say, if you're shooting it here, try and avoid this little bit of spaced armor here. If you're shooting it here, you can probably actually track it and pen it and probably damage this ammo rack too. Because if we actually have a look at the module viewer, because it's always a nice thing to know, as you can see, the engine block, so if you're shooting this thing, there's two engine blocks. If you shoot it in the back end here, you could set it on fire through the engine there. And if you shoot it here, you can actually damage the engine and set it on fire there as well, which is Russian, so it does burn, but it only has like a 10% fire chance, so it doesn't set on fire that much. And as you can see with the ammo racks, if you're shooting at one of these things, and I've blown one of their ammo racks already, you just shoot it here, where this turret basket is, in line with that, or dead centre of the tank, and you'll damage the ammo rack again there. But without further ado, I've been talking too much. Let's have a quick look at what we would run in terms of supplies. Food, naturally. The gun rammer, or the advanced loader, to make sure that the gun is reloading as quickly as possible. Powertrain to make sure that just giving me that extra engine power, but you don't have to run that. That's just my preference. You could run something like the traction system instead, and the traction system might be more helpful for that extra 10% hull rotation speed, but then I run the gun laying drive because I want to make that aim time as good as possible, because my armor is fantastic, but I need to keep this gun working as much as I can, and making the aim time better is always a glorious thing. And in terms of a crew, I need to go to Eastern Alliance and take off the 2D. I've stuck it in this crew here, so let's put it inside the 477A. And as you can see, I run Born Leader, Rapid Reload, Sixth Sense, Steady Aim, Run and Gun, Snapshot, Deadeye, Armour Angling, Clutch Braking. Clutch Braking, to make it so that the track traverse is, well, is as good as possible. It puts up to 33 degrees a second nearly or something like that, which will help to stop people going around you, because that is one of the ways that they have to try and do to take you out. So you want to be able to make track traverse better. Armour Angling, because I'm trying to reduce the amount of damage that's actually coming in. Depends whether you want to change that out for something like Trap Mechanics. Everything's up to you. This is just a template, really. Deadeye, to increase, it's a 152mm gun. It's doing a hefty amount of module damage. I'm trying to make it so that I can meme and have a 6% better chance of damaging the enemy modules. Add to that I'm using the 30mm autocannon on people's rears as well. I'm trying to increase the amount that I'm setting people on fire. And then all the gun perks to make this gun as good as humanly possible. And these three, you take on everything you humanly can do, pretty much. So let's have a quick look at the stats of this tank while it's fully set up. So as you can see, we've now got 1260 horsepower, which has given us an extra 1.2 horsepower per ton ratio, which is why I take it, with a 78.75 kilometre an hour top speed. I take it because it actually hits the 75 mark with this a little bit easier. It just makes the mobility feel a little less sluggish. But you could run the traction system instead, and you'll get that up to about 35 degrees a second of hull rotation, which is a lot nicer as well. It's up to you, realistically, but as you can see, we've got 32.7 on the hull rotation. Ground resistance is a little better. View range and camo, well, the view range is a little better. The camo we've done nothing to. The turret rotation speed is now nearly 37 degrees a second. Accuracy during rotation is 0.95 now, down from the 1.43, which is a hell of a lot better. 9.19 second reload, which is what we've got now. And then, yeah, you've got 0.28 accuracy, 2.19 aim time, down from 2.7. This is why I run the GLD and Born Leader and all that, to make sure that this is as good as it can be. Now, 2.2 second aim time is fine. That's really nice for the gun, which is why I run it. It's a hell of a lot better than 2.7. You really do notice a massive difference by running that. And you've got 2.95 accuracy during movement because of the run and gun, with nearly a 5k DPM. Add into that, you've got the machine gun too, which is down to a 17.14 reload speed. So yeah, that's the stats of the tank while it's fully kitted out. And that's just how I'd kit it out. The tank is pretty damn nutty. Honestly, I feel like this tank is on the sliding scale of pushing towards OP. I don't like calling things OP in the first review because, you know, you don't have... I mean, I've played 22 games in this tank so far at the minute, and I think I'm averaging like 11k so far. And it's absolutely mental. But you never know, that might change in the coming days, who knows. But I still feel like, having played and got the experience of playing it for 20-odd games, I feel like it is on that tipping point to just being OP, generally. Just because the armour is so nutty, and you have the penetration to go through everything, and the high alpha, and the good speed, right? The only downside is that you don't have a fully traversable turret. But yeah, that's the Molot anyway. Is it worth it 15 to 16k gold? Only you can decide that, because that's too damn expensive, honestly. But I'll let you judge it by the replays, where you're going to see a sort of a variety of games, as always. So I'll send you over to the replays. Enjoy them, everyone. So here we are on the replays with the OBJ 477A, the Molot, or Molot, or I'm just going to go with Molot, because I think it sounds better. And I've got 5 replays for you. The first 2 games that you're going to see here, like this one, by the way, don't text and drive. Just don't text and drive, because that's what happens. Great driving, me. There's a rock in front of you over there. Don't crash into the... oh, come on now. You're not supposed to crash into the rocks. Rocks are friends, not things to drive over. They're not food. Anyway, I've got 5 replays for you, and these first 2 replays are probably 2 of the worst games I've had in the tank. As always with the big reviews, I tend to try and mix it up a bit so you get to see the best games I've had, some of the more average games, you know, a big nice spread of them. And yeah, this is one of the worst games I had in the tank. In fact, I think it is the worst game I had in the tank, apart from the one that I did about 5k, but that was my fault because I didn't pay attention to the map and I ended up driving into 13 tanks and I had no team with me, which is never going to work because that's stupid. So these are the worst games that I've had where it's not my fault, pretty much. And yeah, we're on Nebelberg, and we've spotted this 477A attacking my light tank. I'm like, no, Mr. 477A, this light tank is my friend. So now we're going to get to see what it's like shooting at one of these things. But We bounced on a weasel. No, I decided, no, you know what, I'm just going to go after the weasel, because the weasel is a royal pain in the ass, and it's not a good time. But the weasel's running around like a lunatic, so we decided to try and help my friend out, get rid of the 477A Molot, and try and damage him as much as possible, which is what we've done. Now the weasel, like I say, is priority target numero uno. We really want to get rid of that guy. We don't want that guy to live. So we're just making sure that we're getting the shots into him, and really, as long as I'm keeping my front to him, I don't care about his missiles. I don't care about his ATGMs one iota. As you can see, he's shot 2 missiles at me, and both of them have not gone in. They both bounced straight off my front and not done any damage. That's what this tank is like from the front. If you're firing ATGMs at it from the front, don't bother. Because obviously you can't pen the turret, because the turret, as like they said, is basically, the whole turret is a gun. So you know, if I was to shoot the gun of that Challenger 2, I wouldn't do any damage. That's what the whole turret is of this tank. So you can't pen it in the side of the turret, you can't pen it in the back of the turret, you've got to shoot the actual hull to do damage. And as you can see with this 900 pen, we don't care about armour. We don't care about armour, we just went straight to that Challenger 2 really easily, and now we're going after the Leopard 2A5, who, again, we've got his upper plate, one of the most heavily armoured tanks in Era 3, no problem whatsoever, straight through his upper plate, lol. Up to 4.8k damage with 1400 assistance, and now this light tank is doing... Well, he's trying to go to my island. He's trying to go to my island, and we don't allow just anyone to go to my island. So get out of here, sir. You're not allowed over there. There's a big rave going off, and you're not invited. We get rid of the Stingray, and now we're going after what is left of the enemy team, and that is 3 TDs, a heavy tank, and a light tank. We know what the light tank and the heavy tank are. We know the 3 TDs are. It's the weasel we were shooting at earlier on, some thumpers. So we're going to try and get over there to shut these guys down. We're just looking from that thumper, aiming it. As you can see, the aim time is still fairly slow, but 2.19 aim time is far better than if I'd not buffed that aim time whatsoever up to 2.7. Well, down from 2.7, whatever. The thumper, which has 850 pen, can't pen is in the front, so we managed to bounce him. We're just going for the shots into the weasel, and I ignore the tank on... that's just shot an ATGM at me, which is the Bradley, which is a silly thing to do. We hear the other ATGM coming in, it's like, oh, just get out of here, Mr. Bradley, leave me alone. We actually bounced it off the front as well. Just trying to get the shots into the M3A2, it's not happening. So I decided, you know what, screw it. Instead of focusing on the weasel, I was going to go around and shut down the thumper, but he ends up getting shut down by the MPT-70. Now, there's only 2 tanks left, which is the weasel and the chieftain. We're just going to aim up at this weasel, hope we can hit it, and unfortunately the shell just flies straight over. And as you can see at distance, this machine gun just likes to go all over the place. We couldn't get the shots into him. It's like, okay, let me shoot the chieftain. 963. I think we detonated his ammo rack there. Goodbye, Mr. Chieftain. Trying to machine gun the weasel, and we don't get to kill him. We do finish with 6.6k damage and 1700 assistance. I didn't record the end screen because I'm an idiot. Now we're on to the second replay, and this is, again, what, you won't believe it, this is one of the worst games I've had in the tank, and I say that loosely, because I think we do about 9k, something like that, but that's just how this tank is. Like, you just rack up damage so quick, and once again, it shows off the strengths of this tank from when we use it. So we're on Dragon's Ridge, a map that I absolutely detest. Hate this map with a burning passion. But we're going to go to the position up here at D4 because we can possibly catch things out as they cross that B line and get some free damage. There's a thumper crossing in the open over there, but what we're going to do is try and get some shots into stuff like this leopard that's crossing the open where our friend was spotting them. 735 into his side. There's an object 477A. We tried to machine gun him in the side again there. It didn't quite work out. The thumper gets tracked in the open, so don't mind if I slap a big shell into him. Damage his ammo rack, which is lovely. And at this range, we can actually pen him with 170 pen in the side, or at the back end of his engine deck. With the autocannons, that's what we're going for. We got a little bit of damage off, but he's just, again, at range, this gun fires all over the shop. We're trying to help the little TD out with that thumper because hopefully that weasel then can come and help us. So we're just aiming the shot in, slam it in, damage his ammo rack once again, put him down to 600 health, which means that weasel can kill him. And it's getting to the point where I probably have to start focusing on the tanks in front of me. So we slap a big shot into the side of the BU, and it's like, okay, nope, back up. And I think this was like the second game I played in the tank as well. So I wasn't too 100% sure on the armor on this tank. So I was like, oh god, this is a bit awkward. But you know what, I'm just going to sit in front of these guys and just go, try it, lads. Try it. So we've tracked the BU in front of us. We used the machine gun to keep him tracked, and I don't know why I didn't continue to do that, but we don't. And they're just driving in front of my gun. They don't know that I can just absolutely slap them up. We're damaging them up for 791, and as you can see, these guys are just not penning us in the side. We're trying to track him in his drive wheel, but it's not quite happening on this BU? Yeah, BM, so I think that's the one before the BU, right? And we're just trying to shut this guy down, get a gun out of the game, and we don't need to waste a shell on that man. 2 HP, we just ram him and finish him off. Unfortunately, we bounced on the BU, which is really annoying because that was the kill shot. We needed that to go in. The 477A in front of us is coming in now, and that's obviously a pain in the ass to deal with, as we know, because we are that tank. He's shooting down on me, which is equally awkward to deal with, because yeah, shooting up at him is going to be a pain in the ass for me to pen him, and shooting down on me, he can pen my engine deck and stuff like that. So we have to be very, very careful of that. But he's dropped down. So, okay, he's dropped down. We're going to go try and get rid of it. Like I say, if you give it too much side profile, they will track you in the drive wheel. I'm just aiming for that drive wheel shot. As you can see, we go straight in, damage Armour, I can track and pen him. It's what you want to do. You want to be going for that drive wheel if you're shooting at this thing. He drives sideways on, and unfortunately, we hit that spaced armor plate that I showed in the armor profile section, which means we didn't pen it in the side there. It's what you've got to try and avoid, which is what you can avoid if you do go for that drive wheel shot. And unfortunately, we bounce again. And like I say, he's just seeing how awkward this 477A is to deal with in front of you. If you can get rid of it, get rid of it. Because once you've got rid of the 477A, it's a lot easier to deal with the enemy team. Because this tank is just crazy. Now the BU is driving out in front of us with his rear. So I'm like, do I want to waste a shot into it? I didn't want to, but I decided, no, you know what? I can't just... I've just got to get rid of that guy before the 477A shoots me in the side. The 778 is pulling back. We get another shot into his drive wheel, which didn't pen it, just tracked him there. But it keeps him penned a little bit as my friend started... Well, my heavy tank behind him is starting to come in. And I'm looking at the side of his turret going, do I pen that? No, I don't. We bounce him straight off our flat lower plate. And in fact, that was actually the best angle for him to shoot the lower plate as well. It just didn't go in. But I'm just decided, you know what, I'm going to ignore him. I'm going to try and get rid of the BU in the distance. But unfortunately, we bounce on the side of the BU in the distance because the gun hits his upper plate as opposed to his side. But the 477A is not paying attention to us anymore. So we shoot him in the side, aim for his back end, which is what I'd always recommend to do if you're going to use the machine gun. Always aim for the back end of the tanks, never near the front of the side, always the back of the side, because you're more likely to pen. And we put that 477A on like 3 hit points, finish him off with the machine gun, which is where it's useful. And as you can see, we are aiming for that engine deck. We penned it once. He's given up this 477A, and unfortunately, we don't get any more damage on that. We were just trying to machine gun it too. We were finished with the epic victory, 3 kills, 8.8k damage, 925 assistance, the third class, 1381 base XP. A pretty damn decent game full of 477A. That's probably more, well, I don't even want to say that's probably the more average game I've been having. When I've been doing about 10.5 to 11k average so far in 20 games, that's probably the lower end of my average games. Whereas this game that you're seeing here is probably the more average in general. So we're on this map now, which is that Chinese map, isn't it? Yeah, it is. It's that thing with a wall. Great Wall! Great Wall, that's the one. Saying the word wall made me remember. Good lord, okay. Switch your brain on, man. And we're on Great Wall. So Great Wall is a map that can go, well, just one of 2 ways, if we're honest, in Cold War. In Era 3, at least, anyway. And that is that both teams charge the 1-line K line, or one team just goes straight up the A line and down the 0 line, and one team goes up the K line. My team is charging down the 1 line. Fantastic. This is exactly what we want, because that means we're going to hit the enemy team head on, which is great. And we're not going to be left alone, which happens a lot if you come this way by yourself. And we've got a decent amount that's going through the middle as well that can cut in through the middle. So we're just going to go in now and start trying to get shots into the side of these tanks. We get a nice shot into the M8 AGS and pen him a little bit with a machine gun. Then we get a big shot into the side of the M1A2. Now this is where you think maybe this tank is a little bit awkward, right? 6 degrees of gun depression, this position is not going to be that good. Well, we can just overpeak all the time. So I'm not that bothered, if I'm totally honest. Now, occasionally doing this, because like every tank in the world, this tank has a fairly weak underbelly. So if they get a shot underneath your tank, they can quite literally pen it in the underneath if you're not careful coming over ridge lines. But for the most part, as long even exposing the lower plate at weird angles, you can bounce them quite a lot. So I'm just like, go for it, lads. Try it. You know, try and pen me. We're just going to keep popping over, not carrying the little slightest and just keep slapping them in the side and realistically the front too, with this 900 pen that this gun has. So that BM gets caught out, he gets shut down, and again, because this tank's armor is so good, I'm just going to drive out in front of him. And as you'll notice as well, because of the way that this armor works, your damage block counter won't always go up, and that's because technically these tanks are penning you. But they're penning your spaced armor. So because it actually pens your spaced armor, it doesn't count as blocked, which is silly, really, because you're not getting damaged, therefore it should count as blocked, right? But anyway, we shut down that 2A5. Again, one of the most heavily armoured tanks in Era 3, right, in the front. Not anymore, but yeah. And 900 pen just went straight through his upper plate, lower plate, turret front, easily. Easy peasy lemon squeezy. So he's gone. Great driving me. Now we're going after the 477A. Again, we didn't hit the spot we should. We didn't hit the drive wheel. You have to hit the drive wheel. We ended up hitting the spaced armor plate next to it, and I should be going for the drive wheel, but I'm not. And I decide, you know what, I've got to get rid of this 477A. So we start focusing him out, start driving up, aiming the machine gun into the back end of him, switch to the main cannon because it gets loaded, and shut him down. We ended up taking a few hits as well, though, because we just overexposed to these guys in front of us. But now that the 477A is gone, I don't have to worry about having a high pen gun looking at my front. Well, okay, there's another 477A. But these guys will be to my front. They won't be to my side anymore. Unfortunately, it was just mistimed in trying to get shot into that 477A. But because we've still got some decent hit points and stuff like that, we're just going to go in on these guys. We get the shot into the 2A5 there. Didn't quite reload in time to get the machine gun off to kill him. But now this 477A is being distracted by my friend. We go for the drive wheel shot to try and track and pen him, but it's a bit of an awkward shot. We do start to get some assistance though, which is nice. Just getting some machine gun shots in. Now we're loaded. Drive wheel again. Unfortunately, we didn't hit the drive wheel, hit that spaced armor plate, but we did end up blowing his tracks off, so we got a lot of the assistance on the tracks for that guy, which is nice, and it tracked him sideways on in front of my team as well, which is always helpful. It helps them get rid of it. And now we're after the last 3 tanks on the enemy team. We managed to snap the shot into the M1A1, trying to machine gun his ass. We know where the last tank is on the enemy team. There's no point charging down the 1-2. We may as well see if we can go back through the middle, get to the position at F5, and hopefully overlook where these 2 heavy tanks are on the AB line, and you never know, we might get another shot. So we're up to 3 kills with 9k damage with 3.4k assistance so far, and again, this is another one where it's on the sort of the average side of my games, right? Like, the last game was more the lower average, this is probably the more reasonable average, right? We just get to this thumper, slap the shot in. It tried its best to miss because we didn't aim properly, but thankfully the M1A2 shuts him down. And we finished the game with the epic victory. 3 kills, 9.6, nearly 9.7k damage, 3.4k assistance. The third class again, the Confederate, 1489 base XP. Another really nice game for the 477A Molot. And yeah, this tank is crazy. It's pretty damn crazy. The one thing that holds me back from saying, yeah, everyone go out and buy this tank because it's nutty, and apart from the fact that it would absolutely wreck Era 3's matchmaking, right, like it probably will already, is that it's the price tag. It's so expensive. 15k gold is, and I know it's an Era 3 top Era premium tank, and it will make you absolute bank, and especially when you get them, obviously the silver events like silver with interest and stuff like that, where you put your 2 times boost on, put your XP boost on, you start making like in the millions of credits. This tank will make you those 3 to 4 million credits every single, or 3 to 4 million silver every single game when you do get those really good silver XP ops, or you know, the silver ops, right? But even, I mean, most of these replays you're seeing without the silver 2 times silver boosts, right? And we are firing full gold on the auto cannon side so that we have the best chance of penning everyone with the auto cannon. So you're not seeing the really full potential of making silver, right? Because we are wasting a lot of credits, or a lot of silver, by firing these machine gun bullets, and they're not penning. So it's a massive, massive silver earner. But 15,000 gold is absolutely nutty. What is that? It's like, what, 40 quid? 50 quid? Something, you know, in that sort of region, 40 to 50 pounds. That is a lot of money, and I could never in good conscience say to you, yes, go out and buy this tank for that much money, ever. No, don't. Just wait for a discount and then pick it up, pretty much. Only silly people like myself and other whales will end up buying it. But the tank, but again, guaranteed, if you do pick this thing up, you'll have quite a lot of fun with it, and you will make a hell of a lot of silver with it. And you'll just bounce so much damage. So much damage. Which is what you'll see in the next replay as well. When the damage counter actually counts it. So yeah. We're on this map again. Well, let's say this map again. We're on this map, which is No. No, it's not. Rephrase that. It's Hellfire Pass. And we're up to 1500 damage. We've moved to this position here. I was going to drop down, but I didn't realise that that's a cliff. And we get a nice shot into that Type 90-2. So I decided, you know what, no, I don't want to be here anymore. What I want to do is try and get to my friends at B9, B8, and try and push up that way, and then I can get up on top of the ridge where the enemy team is. So we're going to try and push round. We see the MX-40 driving in front, and he's got friends looking at him, which is a Thumper up there and this Type 90, and they're looking at me too. We try and get a shot into the Type 90, and I'm like, you know what? Type 90, try it, buddy. You ain't penning me frontally. Try it. Oh, a Thumper too. It's got, what, 854 pen? Oh, just try it, Bring it, lads. You just sit in front of me, let me pen you a couple of times, and you try and pen me. And see how far you get. Because that's what this tank... As long as I keep them perfectly to my front, these guys, unless a bit of RNG goes against me, these guys aren't penning me. And these guys are shooting down at me. And I know they're shooting at distance, so their penetration's a little bit lower, so bear that in mind. But they're just not penning me. It's just not happening. And I'm getting the odd shot into them, which is great. The Thumper ends up pulling back because he gets shot by someone else. And now it's time, okay? Screw those guys. They couldn't pen me. They've pulled back. I'm not getting any shots at them anymore. Let's go pressure these 3 heavy tanks in front of me. Now, these 3 heavy tanks and a Molot play it wrong. Because realistically, these guys should YOLO me. Because that's the only way they're going to deal with me. Especially with my limited turret traverse. It's the only way that they're going to be able to deal with me. Turn my head, and therefore they'll be able to get shots at me. So we're getting some shots through the upper plate, lower plate with ping help. Because it's kind of like, if these guys rush me, I'm dead. Which is not good, because we are very overmatched. But then I notice, okay, the 2A5 is now face-hugging my friend on my right. But this guy is the threat, because naturally he is against my friend on my side, and if my friend on my side dies, I'm screwed. So we get rid of that 2A5 helping my friend, and that 2A5 directly in front of us was about to YOLO past us. He should have kept going, but he chickened out. If he'd kept going, he'd have turned me sideways for his friends, and then it would have been very awkward for me to deal with. But he doesn't, and they've popped smoke. So we're going to pull through the smoke, go, oh, hello, straight through the upper plate, the 2A5. We're just going to try and track the 2A5 with the machine gun. We're actually penning him as well, which is kind of awkward. Now the Molot turns to look at us, and I'm just trying to go for that underbelly shot. But the shot goes perfectly underneath that 477A, so it doesn't go in. We're going to use the machine gun to get rid of the tank on the left, so I only have to worry about the tanks on the right. So there goes the M1A2 with the machine gun. Again, where the 30mm autocannon really comes in handy. When you have to get rid of tanks like that, they're on the left or right, they're on low hit points, and they're giving you their side. Now we've got the 4778, who thought, okay, I'm going to charge past this guy and try and get rid of him. Unfortunately, he's got the same problem that I have. Limited turret traverse, so he couldn't keep the turret on target. We managed to get the main gun on target and then keep machine gunning him, and he gets brutally rammed to death by the Type 90-2. And, yeah, that guy's gone. The M1 Abrams in the corner is the last one alive, and he gets shut down by the other 477A. And we finish the game with 3 kills, 11,495 damage. The victory, 1,471 base XP, 3.1k blocked, high caliber, and a pretty damn nice game. We made like 270,000 credits as well. So you are just constantly making really nice amounts of silver with this tank. And we're on to the 5th and final replay. Yes, this has been a very long video, but I just wanted to show off this tank as much as I could, so you do get the full sight of what this thing can do. Because even in the games where it doesn't go too well, or the game passes you by, or you're a little bit too slow to react to what's going off, you can still dish out a lot of damage, and you can still do a lot of things, because this thing can block a lot of shots. Naturally, if you get caught out and left out against like 4 or 5 tanks in one go, it's not going to go well for you, because you don't have full turret traverse, so you can't shoot at things behind you. So if you've got 4 or 5 tanks against you and you're singled out, yeah, it's not going to go very well naturally. But that's the same can be said really for most other tanks in the game, right? So yeah, we're on to the 5th and final replay, and this is the best game I had in the tank that wasn't a bot lobby, because the best game I've had in this tank, which is something you're probably not going to see. Well, I don't know. I don't know if you're interested. You might see it, you might not. We ended up losing it, but there was like 4, maybe 5 bots in the lobby, and I did 18,500, I think it was, something like that. But it was a bot lobby, so I don't count it ever. If ever there's even one bot in the lobby, I generally don't show it, because it's just like, it doesn't count. So yeah, this is outside of a bot lobby. This is the best game I've had in the tank. And at this point, I'm like, you know what, guys? Just keep firing at me. Just keep firing. I'm not bothered. I could try and shoot you back, and we're looking to try and shoot them back. And at the minute, really, they're not exposing anybody. Well, no one's exposing to give me a shot, which is awkward. I mean, we've bounced a shot off the low plate of the thumper and stuff like that. But we are looking for shots into these guys, and it's just not there. We do find the other 477A, though. We do try and go through his side, but it doesn't quite work. The MBT-70 ends up looking at us as well, given his side, which is kind of annoying, because it's like, I kind of wish I hadn't fired at the Molot now. But the friend on my left dies, and then I notice, yeah, okay, they've got like 4... I wasn't paying attention, to be honest. I was memeing at this point, and I was trying to block as much as possible. And you see, we blocked 5.2k damage with a bit of assistance. But I do notice, okay, there's 4 tanks down at D7. I have to really go help the team and actually stop memeing and go and try and like impact this game. Because if you don't try and impact the game in Era 3, I mean, naturally that's the whole game, but if you don't do it quickly enough in Era 3, the game snowballs very, very fast. So as you can see, we're going to go over on this thumper, and it is the thumper. It's got really good pen, but I do not care. We managed to block him off our upper plate. It's a weird feeling, right? Because I'm like, I feel like I'm overexposing, but I'm not. We managed to shut down the 2A5 because I noticed he was a one-shot for me, so that's one gun out of the game. This Molot is very distracted with me instead of my heavy tank on his left. He is also firing HE, and that's, again, where the HE is. We're waiting for him. You see, right there, that guy should have stayed frontal on. We were waiting for him to turn his armour just a little bit so we could get the shot into his drive wheel. We hit that spaced armour block again on that side, on his side armour, which only basically blows his tracks off and doesn't pen him because it's a really strong section of his side armour. And we're just using the machine gun to keep him permatracked here, but also damage his rear engine as well. And as you can see, we switch back to the main cannon because he is the main threat. We get rid of him, and now we're being chased by the M1A2. We've still got machine gun left, though, so we start machine gunning into his ass, which has blown his engine. It's completely broke his engine, which means this guy is absolutely boned, and he gets shut down by my 477A friend with me. We've blocked 9,000 damage so far, 2.7k assistance with 5.2k blocked, and we are going to try and deal with the guys now up at B6. And since I'm pretty healthy, and I have another 477A with me, who is also pretty healthy, we are going... I'm pretty confident. I'm not going to lie. Doesn't matter there's 3 to 4 tanks directly in front of us. I'm pretty confident. We drive around the corner. There's another Molot, and he's like AFK. So I'm like, okay, you know what? Screw it. I'm going to kill the MBT-70. We get a lucky shot in that tracks and pens him and sets him on fire. And then it's like, oh, God, that guy's not AFK anymore. What was he doing? That's weird. But we go for the drive wheel shot, and as you can see, we track and pen him and damage his ammo rack, which happens a lot. Go for the drive wheels. Even when they're frontally on, you never know, you might get a pen in there. And if you don't get a pen, you'll blow the tracks off and you can try your best to get round them and then pen them. It's just what you want to try and do. So we just wait for him to turn again a little bit, giving us a better angle at that track. We blow his tracks off again and damage his ammo rack. And again, I want to drill into you. Don't shoot what I just shot there. That was stupid. Why did I not go for the drive wheel? Go for the drive wheel, because that is where you will track and pen the tank. We try and get a shot into the lower plate of the M1A2, but unfortunately we ricochet, and it's like, well, I want to get rid of this guy. I'm not really bothered about the Molot in front of me, because I feel like he's not really going to pen me. So, well, frontally anyway, if I keep straight on. We're just waiting for the gun to reload. It's like, good night, Mr. Molot, and you are out of here. We've now blocked 11,785 damage. 11,785 damage with blocks. Nuts. With 4.3k assistance from doing a bit of spotting and tracking too. 9.5k damage. And we now know where, well, at least 3 of 4 even now of the last 5 tanks are. We try and get a shot on the move into the thumper that crosses the gap, but apart from in that last game, realistically hitting shots on the move with the main cannon of this gun is not going to happen that often because your on the move dispersion is pretty poor. you can always try, because you never know with RNG, right? It does happen. And yeah, we're just going to now chase after this Thumper. He's given us his ass, which is a terrible thing to do. We've got a fully loaded 30mm autocannon, and we go for the track, and we end up tracking him in place and taking a lot of his hit points there, putting us up to nearly 11,000 damage. They've got 3 tanks left. We're basically 5-3 up at the minute. We'd have to do quite badly here to blow this. The MX-40 is ignoring me once again, and once again, the autocannon comes into play. We just start absolutely melting him with it, as well as firing the main cannon when we are loaded. Always keep an eye on your main cannon to make sure that you're firing it. And I'm just trying to blow his tracks off once again, but it's not quite happening. He goes around me, which is the thing, again, that you need to do when you're facing off against this tank. Go around it. And we've just used the autocannon to make sure he's a one-shot. And we shut down that guy. I back into the Challenger 2 to hope that maybe he rams himself to death on me, but it doesn't happen. Again, he's doing the right thing. He's trying his best to get round the side of this tank, but because the track traverse is pretty decent on this thing, he is struggling, and we managed to shut down the Challenger 2 as well. That puts us up to 6 kills with 14,730 damage, 12.5k blocked. There's 1 tank left on the enemy team. It's the Leopard 2A4. He's given up, and we slam the shot straight through his upper plate. No problem whatsoever, and get our 7th kill of the game. We finished the game, like I say, that was my best game without a bot lobby. We finished with 7 kills, 14,800 damage, 4.5k assistance, high caliber, top gun, first class, 1,853 base XP, what, 19,000 combined? Pretty damn tasty game for the Object 477A Molot. I think it's pretty OP, if I'm honest. I don't like calling it that on the first day review, but I'm thinking it's pretty OP. But for 15,000 gold, no, don't spend that much gold on this game. That costs far too much money. Far too much. And 15,000 is just utterly ridiculous price. It's only for people like me and whales. And yes, I am a giant super fat whale. That was a terrible whale noise. Anyway, thank you very much for watching. I'll see you next time.
A great success!